This works. What is your name? JL. What church? I'm kind of just figuring out how to do the screens. Can you hear me okay, JL? Have you been sent to start your church? I think so. I don't know. It's a good question. Called? Sent? Aren't we all sent? I guess would be the question. I would love to have a conversation about it, but I'll do a brief synopsis. My name's Ryan. I work as a hospice chaplain, and I've done that for 15 years. And in the last several years, when I do my initial assessment, when I meet somebody for the first time, um, I I have to ask what their religious background is. It's my least favorite question on the initial assessment, but I have to ask. There's a line that says religion, and I can't go to the next screen unless I put something on that line. So I have to ask, and a lot of people have said, well, I was raised Lutheran, or I was raised Catholic, or I was raised Baptist, whatever, but I haven't been to church in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. And then my follow-up has become, what made you leave? And the answers have been pretty fascinating. They're kind of all over the place, all different reasons people gave for why they left. And I think most of them, if not all of them, were very valid reasons to leave. So we decided to try to create a place for people who left church. We have been sent to spread the gospel, not start a church. That's a good. Well, it begs the question: what is a church? Define church, because most churches, if you go to a church, they will tell you when you go on Sunday morning, this building is not the church. The people in it are the church, right? So I think we were called. I think the idea of starting a church is maybe a newer concept. So I'm Catholic, and the church. So I'm Catholic, and the church would be the Catholic Church. Yeah, the Universal Church, the Universal Catholic Church, as is described in the earliest Roman creeds, right? The Nicene Apostles' Creed. So even the Catholic Church, I think, would say that these buildings where we gather on Sunday mornings for Mass are not the church. The church is, kind of by definition, the collection of all of the followers of Christ. Anyone who is following Jesus is a part of the church. So, for example, there's parts of the world where the church is illegal, and so they can't gather, right? And they meet underground or in some groups, or they can't meet with anybody at all. I think we would agree that they're still part of the church, even though they're not going to a church building. Does that make any sense? No, this is a Christian only thing. No, I think atheists would like it here more than Christians. I think atheists would like my church more than most Christians. Most Christians don't like my church. I think that Christian nationalism is a huge problem. And most of the church in America is either in supportive of Christian nationalism or silent on the matter, which to me is supportive. We believe that we are the body, but the body is in communion with the Catholic Church. Yeah, I understand. I don't know Catholic dogma and doctrine and theology as well as you do probably, but I do have a kind of a working knowledge, and I understand that position. I think you would like the church too, the Catholic, this church. I have, if I'm going by memory, which is not my strongest point, that's the passage that St. Peter was sort of named the first pope. Is that correct? Matthew 16:18. Upon this rock I will build my church. Is that the? You can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have a Bible in front of me, and I don't have it as memorized. What are your thoughts on Jesus? Because Peter, the authority of and the keys. Yeah. So it is that passage, I think. Do you want to come up here or by any chance or no? I'll try to. I don't know what I'm doing on. Yeah, I think it's like 60,000. Enough already. I hear you. No one. You will find no one more frustrated with the church than me. It is. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm proud of myself. Normally I'd have to look that up. I don't have things as memorized as well as I used to. But yeah, I think there's the question for me where I guess I would differ from, and I don't care about as much about our differences as I do our similarities. That's why I don't really like to debate or argue. Oh, good. How do I do it? JL. Is it JL?
What's going on, buddy?
Is that right, JL?
Yeah, man.
Good to see you, man. Thanks for coming up.
Not a problem, buddy. Is this your first time going live?
Yeah, well, no, I've tried it a couple times before. I mean, the first time I ever did anything TikTok live was like 2 weeks ago. So I came on to sort of figure out um, how it would go, how to get the like that background on there, and like let's say you were super mean or started yelling, like there's a way that I can kick you out or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So if you press on my name and it'll just say disconnect. So I'll give you two tips. People hate being muted. So if anybody gets angry, you mute them a couple times, and then you see their true colors come out.
Yeah,
And if they just also too, you know about the TikTok language.
I'm learning that.
So
Like
nothing with the community that has a bunch of letters in its name.
you can't say those letters.
Don't say the letters. Don't say any words that are about that community. You cannot
Really?
say,
I did not
yeah,
know
you
that.
can't, yeah, if any, you have to say unalived instead of DED. You sometimes even have to spell certain
Yeah.
words. Um,
I'm learning those
also,
little by little. Like I heard somebody talking about Schmittler or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. There's a bunch of them that I have heard multiple different things like this word's acceptable now, this word's not. I've just turned my to like, all right, I have to talk to people like they're like we're babies because I don't want to get somebody in trouble.
yeah,
It's
I
it's
I've already made a couple mistakes. Not like you could say any like traditional foul language, I guess, is not a problem, but like these
Yeah,
weird,
you can cuss all you want, which is funny.
yeah, but real random kind of choice words. I heard someone say you can't say white.
Yes, yeah, I was just gonna say I was gonna spell that to you. Yeah,
Is
you
that
have to
true?
say YT people.
But you can say black people.
I don't know if you can say that. What I
That's what I
sometimes
was.
say is this sounds crazy, but um, the police aren't allowed to say that on their like radio to radio. Like if you're a cop and I'm a cop, I can't say the like what you look like. They have to say code one for B and
Oh,
code two for YT. So I just say code one. Um, it's pretty in depth and stupid for us to talk like this, but we love TikTok Shop, you know. And also too, that's the other part. If anybody ever says anything bad, uh, you can say we love TikTok Shop, and it kind of erases whatever bad things you
really?
have
I've heard
said.
that. I've heard that before too, but I didn't realize the reason. You can say we love TikTok shop.
Yeah.
Um, Streaker I've talked to before, and Streaker said you can say black or black people, but
Okay.
not YT,
Yeah.
which to me is a fascinating, like, not fascinating. That's not the right word.
It's pretty messed up.
It's
It's
absolutely
basically
messed
what
up.
it is. Yeah.
Like how I don't even know. You would think that they try to be a little bit more like covert about their
Yeah,
like
like if you
words you
can't say
can't
black, you
say.
can't say YT. You know what I mean?
You can say black people is fine,
Yeah.
but YT don't you ever come close.
It's so weird, dude.
Don't you ever come close to disrespecting us.
Yeah.
What an absurd rule.
Yeah, it's
Um,
definitely weird. But
Thanks
no,
for this
so
help, Dale.
yeah, not a problem.
I'm gonna
I
practice.
want
I'm gonna practice muting you real quick. I just
go
press
for it.
the press U and then hit microphone.
Yep.
Turn off JL's microphone, and then you can turn it right back on again, right?
So yeah, I can turn it right back on. It depends though how you have your mod settings. So I know like my one buddy, if him or the moderators mute him, sometimes if you've been muted too many times, I don't know if this is a setting or if it's just because his lives get a little heated. You have to wait a full minute for their TikTok for their microphone to turn back on. But other than that, I mean, I haven't been in other lives where that's happened.
Gotcha. JL, if you and I got super angry or you said some stuff that you're not allowed, I can disconnect you.
Yes, yeah. So
That
you
would.
press on my name again,
I
disconnect,
saw
I'm
that.
kicked.
Yeah, I saw that. But then that obviously drops you down, and you can still watch what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, yeah,
Unless you block him.
yes.
Oh
Yep.
yeah. How does that happen after the fact? After, let's say
So
JL got rowdy and I and
you
I
No, you
dissed
can do it
him.
with him right there.
yeah, you can
So
do it. You can do it right
you click on
now.
his name, or you click on his picture, click on his little picture again, and then up in the right hand corner, you're gonna have three dots. Click on that, and it gives you
Block.
the option to block or mute or block and then mute, either in whatever combination you choose.
Awesome. And then can I do that right like before I disconnect him? Can I just go in and block him, and does that
So if you're going
automatically?
to do that, if you're going to do that, then mute him first. And because when you block him, it's going to drop him out of the live automatically.
And you can do it to people in your comments too. So if you got somebody who's like,
Absolutely.
yeah, if you got somebody who's like being real ignorant against like the TikTok language or anybody that's like, I'll have a TikTok about Saints Intercession or Mother Mary. They'll come up and say some real ignorant stuff about Mary, and I'm like, all right, I'll just block you because we're not going to have a good conversation anyway.
Right.
So,
I got
JL,
you.
I'm going to push back on you about one thing that you said. I'm a member of the transgender community. You
Uh huh.
absolutely can talk about LGBTQIA.
Okay, so you can say
So,
the letters.
absolutely,
Okay, gotcha. I know all the swear
100%.
words are basically out.
So, uh,
Like
uh,
you can't say the G word, right?
Um, so that depends. Like sometimes we say it, and then there are other times in other people's lives where I've seen people get dropped down for it, but I'm not sure if that's the TikTok people or if that's somebody like reporting to TikTok for saying
Gotcha.
it. And
Gotcha.
if people come in and mass report, they're going to drop you no matter what the reason is. If
Yeah.
it's like 20 people that are reporting you. So, and you got to remember anytime you're talking on here, just talking, whether it's heated or not, everything that we're saying goes through 8 layers of what's being said, 8 layers of AI before it gets to a real person. They are listening to everything that we say,
I
plain
didn't
and
know that.
simple. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I did not know that.
And
Um,
if you want to keep your life safe, reconsider. I would suggest you getting an agent.
an
What do you mean
agent.
by an agent?
Yeah. You don't know what an agent is?
No.
Holy crap. Okay. So an agent is somebody, um, and there's a crap ton of them on here. So what they do is they get paid by TikTok, not by you, not by me. They get paid by TikTok. What they do is if your live gets taken down, you contact your agent and then they contact TikTok and they go, no, man, no, this should not be happening. And they'll get your live back like pretty quick.
How do you get in touch with an agent?
You know what? At this point, I can give you the name of mine because I know when they first came on the scene, they were everywhere. And I don't see them as much anymore. I don't know if it's because they all have like a bunch of people that have signed up with them. I don't know what the reason is. So
Yeah, I don't.
after like when I drop down out of this, I can go and and see if I can figure out how to find one, like if you're just looking for one.
Is that
I
different? That's
can't do
different than
anything
a.
from here though.
Yeah, thanks for this, both of you. I really appreciate it. I'm just
Yeah,
kind of
not a
learning.
problem.
I think my banner needs to be higher than it is.
Yes.
I'll figure it out. I don't. I watch other people every now and then. I've seen Streaker on a couple other lives. I usually just watch like from. I don't even really comment all that often. I just listen, and every now and then something will come up that I'm like, oh, I can speak to that. But there's only like a few areas that I would be the expert in the room. Politics isn't one of them. Like the few lives I've seen, people are talking about politics, and they're so much more knowledgeable than I am on that issue.
They can get heated very quickly, though. I stay off of politics ever since I started going back to church and everything. I just completely forgot about politics. I was like, I'm done.
So,
Yeah.
JL, what kind of church do you go to?
I'm Catholic.
So I'm guessing that the Catholic Church doesn't really involve itself in politics.
No. So the only time that I've ever heard a priest at my parish say anything about politics was when they said that Trump was not being Christ-like when he had the meeting with Zelensky. And
Okay,
when you go back and you do watch that interview, my priest, in my opinion, was correct. Um,
absolutely was.
because
Yep.
as you know, as followers of Christ, we're supposed to be loving and understanding and helpful. I may not agree with the way our government helps out people, but I don't really care anymore about what the government like does because I basically am just focused on my salvation and my family's salvation. And
hmm
if somebody wants my opinion, I'll give it to them. But I'm not gonna like you being part of that community. I'm not going to say anything wrong to you. Like I'm like that's your thing. If you ask me, I'll tell you. But if you
I
don't,
hear you.
I don't
No,
care.
no, that's cool. That's
Yeah,
cool. No, listen, your um
exactly. You don't.
I don't need your
Yeah,
approval or your permission
exactly.
to be the person that I am.
Yeah. There's
Um,
when I do my TikTok lives, um, I like to inform people about the Catholic Church, what we believe in, the doctrines, the dogmas, and everything else about that. If I can, somebody can force feed and spoon feed all the scripture they want, but like you just said, it's your life. You come to me, I'll give you what I think. Other than that, all good. I mean, it's funny,
the
like the
only
Pope.
problem that I see with politics and religion in the last uh, probably more than 10 years, but I've I didn't I didn't really get involved in politics until about 12 years ago or so. So, but the problem that I see now is that the typical run of the mill church is very involved in politics, and they shouldn't be. They absolutely should not be.
Yeah, no,
So,
like just today. I don't know if it was today or yesterday because I just saw it on Instagram today. But Pope Leo came out and was saying that we're welcoming everybody. We're welcoming the LGB. We're
mhm.
welcoming
Yep.
everyone because he wants everybody to hear the gospel. He wants everybody to receive a blessing, and like that's what the church is supposed to be. And when
I
you mix
love
in
Pope Leo. I'm
politics,
just saying. I'm not Catholic, but I love him.
yeah, you know,
He's
like no,
amazing.
he has
Me
said
too.
things. He said things that like a lot of people don't like, and popes in the past have before. But like for him to come out and remember, like the first 3 weeks of him as pope, he said that marriage is between a man and a woman, whether you agree, whatever. But then he says we're also welcoming. If you want to come in, sit through a mass, you hear the gospel, please come in. We're not telling you, hey, you're not allowed to come in because you're part of a certain community. Like everyone is welcome here, and that's like one of the reasons why like I always stand true to the church is because like that you don't find that in a lot of churches. Like Southern Baptist, um, there's a lot of churches out there that are like, hey, you're going to hell. Meanwhile, the pastor could be beating his wife or a drunkard. You know what I mean? Like, don't be a hypocrite.
Yeah, that's interesting. I appreciate what you're doing here. I know that Streaker and I mean, I'm sure we all have our opinions on issues like that. Yeah, I can give you my 2 cents, but I don't even know that they're worth that. JL, so you feel like your role on TikTok is just to be sort of a offer basic explanations of what Catholicism is about? Is that
Little bit deeper than basic. It started out as basic, and then I started diving deeper into the Greek. The reason why I asked you those original questions is because, being a Catholic, we fully believe that the Catholic Church is the church that Jesus Christ founded. Um, we see that we believe that started at Matthew 16:18 through 19. He says, "Is it cool if I run through this and just because I just love giving people the information, and you can do with it whatever you want.
yeah,
And if you
go
want to
ahead.
interrupt me in the middle, go for it." So Matthew 16:18 through 19, he says, "And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom. Whatever you bind on earth should be bound in heaven. Whatever you loosen on earth should be loosened in heaven." So we see that Peter's name was originally Simon. Jesus changes his name to Peter. Do you know about the name changes in the Bible?
Yeah, he changed his name to Cephas, though, right?
Well, in
Which
Aramaic, it's Kepha, which means so
right?
Jesus at
Yeah,
this time was in an Aramaic pagan area. So he had to
yeah.
speak Aramaic because he didn't want to be found out like, hey, there's a Greek speaking Aramaic, a Greek speaking Greek. We don't like that here. So he calls him Kepha, and in the Greek, it's translated as Petros, which means pebble. But since Jesus was in a pagan Aramaic speaking area, we know that he said Kepha. Kepha means large rock or foundational rock. So we see that there's a little bit more evidence of something that can be built on it. Now, the one part that people kind of skip over here is when he says, "I will give you the keys to the kingdom, and whatever you bound on earth should be bound in heaven, whatever you loosen on earth should be loosened in heaven." If we go back to Isaiah 22:22 in the Old Testament, it says, "I will place on his shoulder the key of the house of David. He shall shut he shall shut and none shall shut. He shall shut and none shall open." So it's echoing the same type of wording that Jesus is using in Matthew 16:18. Now, the keys that he's talking about is referring to Eliakim, who's like a steward.
Mm-hmm.
Today he would be like a prime minister, and he's under the king Hezekiah. So basically, the king of Israel in the house of David is handing Eliakim the keys to the kingdom, and it's representing delegated authority. So he can now govern on behalf for the king when the king is not there. And it's basically like the steward has complete authority over the entire household, second to the king.
What's the king's name?
King Hezekiah. I think I'm pronouncing that correct, but it's
Is it?
Hezekiah.
Yeah, Hezekiah.
Hezekiah.
Yeah,
That's how you're supposed to say it.
that's a good. Yeah, that's good.
So the keys, House of David, Jesus is in the line of David. So the keys of the kingdom of heaven, Jesus is giving him basically the same key, saying, "You are now second in command. I'm giving you the authority of being the steward, the prime minister, when I am gone." Now, we don't look at the Pope as Jesus Christ. We look at him as a man who puts his socks on just like everybody else. You know what I mean? There's a lot of claims that we worship the Pope, we pray to the Pope like how we pray to God. Complete false. You'll see a ton of that on TikTok like constantly all the time. Basically, like when you take Peter's role and like if you just took Peter's role and you're like, all right, yeah, cool. So he gave him some keys. If we look in the scripture, Jesus gives Peter different commands compared to the other apostles. So the one that he gives the shared command to all the apostles is in John 20:21 through 23, where he says, "As the Father has sent me, even so I send you. Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive the sins of any, they are forgiven." Now, that's a shared command between all 12. But Peter is given different commands by Jesus. So in John 21:15 through 17, he says to Peter, "Feed my sheep." He says to Peter, "Feed my lambs, tend my sheep, feed my sheep." So now he's basically telling him, make sure that the flock is fed. When we go to Luke 22:31 through 32, he tells him, strengthen the brethren. So he says, I have prayed for you, Peter, that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned again, strengthen your brethren. So now we're seeing Peter being told, don't also feed the sheep, but I also need you to strengthen everybody. And that to me, like that in my brain, I immediately think a leader. Like a leader is somebody who's going to go out, make sure his soldiers are fed, make sure that they're in good spirits, make sure that they're ready to go out and do their job. Now, the big one here that kind of shows me why I'll stick to my guns that Peter is the first pope. Have you heard of the miraculous catch of the 153 fish?
In the New Testament?
Yeah, in the New Testament.
Yeah.
So John 21:1 through 11. I'm just going to summarize the whole thing. Resurrected Jesus appears to some of his disciples by the Sea of Galilee. They have been fishing all night and caught nothing. Jesus tells them to cast their net on the right side. They catch 153 large fish, and the net was not torn. So in John 21:3, Peter says, I am going fishing, and the others go with him. So another leadership action of Peter saying, I am going fishing, and then they follow. All right. Now, the biggest part about the 153 fish equal all the nations and people that are representing the universal church. So at that time, if you took 153, it's a triangular number. So remember, like the Jews had the Strong's numbers meant things to them. So 153 is a triangular number of 17. So if you do 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, blah, 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 it equals 153. Now, the large fish symbolizes basically that the universal church, all people are drawn to the church. It's the unity and strength of the church because the net didn't break. And if you also add, this is the big one that kind of blew my mind. If you add Noah's bloodline and Abraham's bloodline, it equals 153. So we see Noah and Abraham, Noah, the father of post-flood humanity, Abraham, the son of Shem.
JL, hold on.
Yeah.
Like all of this is getting very like I see angel numbers everywhere I go. This is what this number means. This is what this like. Do you really think that seriously? Do you really think that if God wanted the Catholic Church to be the church, the head of the church, like, and all of the things that you're talking about, do you really think that he would make it this huge puzzle that people had to figure out? Or would he make it very simple for the people to understand?
So I would say that after doing all the research, to me, it is now simple. I could 100% agree with you that it would look like a puzzle to somebody else. The reasoning why, though, is because if we read the Bible in English, we read it how we would read it. Now, when we read it in the Greek, the Koine Greek, the original Greek, that's when everything kind of changed for me. When I was sitting back and trying to understand all these words, I was like, okay, I've read this scripture 5 times. I don't get it. And my mother-in-law, she's Greek, and she was like, that word means something different in the Greek language. And I was like, how so? Because the Greek has multiple different words for different meanings. Like love has 5 different Greek words for it. So when we read love, it can mean agape. It can mean I'm having a
Eros, it can mean Phila.
exactly.
Yeah, I get it. I went to Bible college. Like I get it. But I still don't think that God would have made it this huge stinking puzzle that you're trying to make it out to be. And if you do this and you see that this connects to this, and then if you read over here, then you'll see that this connects. No, that's too much. It's too complicated, and I think that with that people are digging, trying to find things that they can connect one thing to another, and then connect that to something else, and then they can go, see, I told you. That's crazy.
Yeah, let me jump in. I appreciate this conversation. Oh, good. I'm glad you did, Earth Citizen. How do I do that? You'll have to forgive me, Earth. I'm
down at the bottom. See the thing
got
that
it.
looks like 2 little people. Click on that, and it'll.
There we go.
There you go.
How do you? Let me just respond to this. I don't want to just the goal of what I'm trying to do here, and I know everyone has different goals as far as if they're going live, what they hope to address and what they hope to accomplish. Um, I love that you're researching JL. I got to study this stuff pretty in depth. I don't say that like in an arrogant way because there's
No,
people
you're fine.
who know it a lot better than I do. But I have what's called a Master's of Divinity. I studied under a guy named D.A. Carson, who's like a pretty well-known New Testament theologian. And we could get into all of the, like, I was proud of myself though because it's been a long time since I was in school. I was proud of myself that I got the Matthew 16:18 from memory because I'm not Catholic. um, I think verse 17 for me, uh, um, starting at verse 18 is makes it a little bit easier of a discussion than if you start in 17. But um, we don't have to go. I'd rather focus on what we have in common. I know you mentioned that. I don't know which direction you'd like to go with this conversation. I know I guess it's up to me ultimately, but that's not really my style. I'd rather, if you want to hear my explanation of why I am not Catholic, I'm happy to provide that. But I believe that you and I are both Christians.
No, I
Um,
appreciate that. I don't get that a lot.
yeah.
Yeah. No, if you want to go with your view, go for it. Like why you aren't Catholic, that's perfectly
well,
fine.
I I also have been thinking a little bit about what Streaker said before about, or what we talked about before about how we have our faith and our belief system, but we sort of, because there's supposed to be a separation of church and state, we try to do that on an individual level where we keep what I believe theologically, what my personal belief system is with regard to my faith can be separate from what my belief system is with regard to my politics. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And for me, the two inform each other significantly. Um, so I can't divorce the two things. There are a lot of people, and I know I already sort of explained this, but a lot of people that have left church. A lot of folks gave the answer. I think it was numbered the sixth or seventh most common reason that they gave for why they left was issues around this community. Either people that themselves are a member of this community, or their brother or sister is, or one of their children is, or grandchildren. I work in hospice, so I see a lot of people that are up there in years, and or a best friend or something like that who is part of the LGBTQ community, and so they've stopped going to church because of that, because of this issue. Other people gave other answers. Some people were hurt or traumatized by church. There's something called purity culture and all sorts of things that people have, that the church has done. Not any specific one, but in general, the church has hurt a lot of people, and so they leave. They still may say, "Hey, I still have my faith. I still believe in God. I still inside think of myself as Christian, but I am done with organized religion. I'm done with church for all these reasons." Some people said that was financial reasons. They felt like they were getting, um, you know, robbed, for lack of a better term, or that the church was putting a lot of pressure on people to give money, and then they would never disclose. There was no transparency with what they were doing with that money. So that was the number 4 reason, I think. But there was 13 reasons, a whole list of reasons that people gave. And as that has weighed on me, um, my heart is for people who have left the church, not because I want to convert them back or because they made the wrong decision by leaving. It's just, I think they made the right decision by leaving, and I don't think that they should be have to be isolated, have to do their faith, Christian, whatever it is, in isolation.
What do you mean by isolation?
So let's say, for example, I was raised in a church and I lived my whole life in church. And what example could I use? Let's use the financial one because it's a little less sticky. Let's say that um, I I had a change in my job and I was making less money than I was in my previous job. But the church was used to I was very faithful and writing my 10% check as a
Hmm.
tithe at the beginning of every month. and I was making $80,000 a year. And circumstances change, and now I make $40,000 a year. And so the check that I write at the beginning of every month is half of what it used to be. And the church, the leadership of the church, the senior pastor or some associate pastor or something, says, "Hey, Ryan, what's the deal? Like, you need to be coming up. Like, why are we getting less?" And I explain, first of all, unbelievable that they asked, but I explain, hey, I had a situation with my previous job and I got demoted or lost that job and got another one, and I only make half as much. So this is all I can afford now to give the church. And they don't accept that as an answer. They make me feel ashamed for not giving as much, or they say, hey, you really need to get close to what you were giving, even if it's a little more sacrifice for you. That's what God would want. And so they put this guilt on me, and I get pissed, and I say, you know what, I'm not coming to church anymore. I'm done with church. That's just one example. I could give you hundreds, literally hundreds of, like, I've had this conversation so many times with patients why they left, and the answers are incredible. The number one answer is hateful and judgmental Christians. Just FYI.
That's a good one.
That's the number one answer people gave, like 41 people. I have them all written down.
I will.
There it is.
You got them all postcards. There you go.
I know. I wrote it. Well, I started this 3 years ago. I started asking this question 3 years ago. I won't go into the whole history of it, but I am happy. I'm happy to continue the conversation either on how I think the church has handled areas of oppression, whether it be this community or women in general, or people of color, or interracial couples, or, you know, our history, if we're going to be honest with it. And I know you're part of the Catholic Church, but I am Protestant. And we can circle back to why I think I'll do it real quickly. In Matthew 16:18, which you read at the beginning, the keys piece, and I hear a lot of numerology about how these numbers all tie together, and like Streaker said, I think, do you really have to follow this, understand all that to get it? I kind of lean toward Streaker. I think the message of the gospel is pretty straightforward and pretty simple. I think verse 17. So you started at Matthew 16, 18, and 19, and then I think you went to John and some other verses. But verse 17.
I can read 17 if you want.
Yeah, or maybe 16 and 17, just out of curiosity.
Yeah. So,
Earth, I want to hear from you in a moment, if you don't mind. Thanks for your patience. I'm not trying to leave you down there with like making you be patient. I'm not good at any of this, really. Sorry, go ahead,
You'll
JL.
get better at it. The more you do it, the better you'll get. Yeah.
What you just did also too, like saying his name, like lets him know that you're still involved, so you didn't forget about him. So that's good. I'll start at 16. I'll just go 16, 17. Simon Peter replied, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven."
Yeah. So this would be my position, and we don't have to hash it out. When Jesus says, "On this rock I will build my church," I think he's referring to verse 16, the truth of that statement. When Simon Peter, because if you would have started, I guess it was in 15. I should have had you go back to 15, but in 15, they're having this dialogue, Peter and Jesus, back and forth. And he says, "Who do people say that I am?" This is going back to maybe 12 or 11.
Yeah.
And who do people say that I am? And he says, well, some people say that you are Elijah. Some people say that you're Moses. Some people that say that you're some great prophet. There's maybe another name in there. And he says, "But who do you say that I am?" And his response, I think, is in verse 16. He says, "You are the Messiah."
Yeah, I mean that is what he does is the foundation of Christian faith.
Right. So he says, "You are the Messiah," and I think, in my understanding of that passage, and I got to study Greek and Hebrew and all the stuff, but I think that when Jesus responds to Peter, he's talking about the veracity of the statement, "You are the Messiah," and he said, "On that rock, on this rock, I will build my church. Now we could talk about it's called ecclesial episcopacy. Have you heard of that? It doesn't matter. There's it's a good long discussion, but my hope here is to help us realize that you and I are not adversaries.
No, I agree with you for sure. Trust me, I have people on my followers list who I know are adversaries with me, and I'm probably with them.
Yeah.
I just like hopping up on. I mean, I
appreciate it.
Yeah, I saw you had no viewers, and I was like,
yeah,
seems like a normal guy to talk to.
Yeah.
And
let me jump in for a second about.
Here we go, Earth. Thank you.
Verse. The thing that is not noticed by most Christians here when they talk about that verse that you just read about, when he said, "Who do you think I am?" is that Jesus had the opportunity to quash any belief in reincarnation, which was pretty prevalent at the time with the Jewish people in many instances, and he did not. When they said, some think you're Elijah, some think you're Moses. So, my point, and I'm asking, Ryan, that's your name, is that correct?
Yeah.
Ryan, when you wrote down your list of reasons that people, left, is it in there that they read the Bible? That they read the Bible all the way through and really studied it with their heart and realized that it was a crock. And I mean, I call it, and this is disparaging in a lot of ways, but it's meant to be and it's not meant to be. The Sheep Herder's Guide to the Universe is not relevant in this time, and there are so many things with Christianity that are pushed aside. For example, there's a great book that's called The Immortality Key that talks about how Jesus and this group were very much a mystery religion, and in those mystery religions there were substances taken in communion that gave them altered states of mind at times. And so you have that passing of one cup, when you're at the Last Supper, that communion by a lot of people is thought to be a hallucinogenic substance that helped along with this Christian thing as it was, because it was at the time a very radical thing for a Jewish man to come out and be against the law and the way that the Jewish people were teaching things in the temple and things like that. And my personal belief is that it has become irrelevant. The church itself has such a history of horror that it sort of erases anything that gets pulled out. And I know that say, well, Jesus is good and all this other stuff, but the history of the church itself, whether it's Protestant, Catholic, one of the 60,000 other denominations that are out there, it basically is too divisive for humanity. Yeah. And I've been reading a lot of Spinoza lately, that basically he was a Jewish man, that basically tore apart the whole concepts of organized religion. And, it basically has come down to the point to where, churches have hindered humanity for so long. And if we continue to allow that, humanity's not going to get nowhere. Half of them are over here waiting on the rapture to happen and for Jesus to come save them again. And, the others are waiting for Armageddon. And talking about the Greek stuff, I've studied just like what you have, Ryan and JL, and TikTok. What's your name there? I'm sorry. TikTok
Streaker.
You can just call me Frankie.
Hey, Frankie.
Hey.
I'm a member of the letter community also, and that had a bearing on the reason I left, but it was not the sole reason. The sole reason really was because I sat down and I actually read it and studied it and realized that the God of the Old Testament was a horrendous deity. And, I've been, you know, paganish or whatever you want to call it for most of my life. And even the deities that are out there that are, hardcore pagan, they're not as horrendous as, Yahweh was. And so the amount of trouble that the churches have to deal with, we can't brush it aside. The history. And I think that's what modern Christianity is trying to do, saying, well, the church is, you know, trying to accept everybody now. And, Pope Leo gets up and says we're all accepting, but you're still, you still can't be that way because, that's sin and blah, blah, blah. And, that itself has hindered humanity. Our progress as humans has been hindered so long, not just by Christianity, but by the Muslim religion, the Jewish religion. I studied and I have a lot of Buddhist beliefs. I have a lot of Christian beliefs. I sort of have an amalgam of all of them, but I do not think that any of them are, worthy to. Religion is a detriment to humanity, and we've got to sort of put a little tack on it for a while if we're going to progress anywhere spiritually. And I'm talking spiritually.
So I don't mean to interrupt here, but there's been a couple claims, and they're your personal opinions. I kind of went all the way up to the first one with the psychedelic. Do you believe that there were psychedelic substances used when
Yes.
Jesus was around, like he was preaching and all that?
Yeah, it's already been
So
proven. It's been proven pretty much in archaeology, and there's quite a few scholars that will point you in that direction. Look at Revelations.
real quick though,
He
I just have a question.
he eats a scroll. He eats a
Can I just
scroll.
ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think that 5,000 people that were fed on fish and loaves, do you think that they somehow gave a substance to 5,000 people all at once?
If you go back and you look at the medieval times when people were consuming ergot, which is what the most.
Citizen,
Go
I'm
ahead.
just going to interrupt you for 2 seconds. I'll give it right back to you, I promise. JL, how many people did Jim Jones give the Kool-Aid to?
I completely understand that line, but we're talking about this is Christ's day and age. We're talking first century
Right, but if
Jew.
it could happen today, why could it
Yeah,
not
but there's
happen back
no
then? That doesn't. No, you keep
what
saying
what what
no.
they
If
did in
you're
these.
saying that something couldn't happen back then just because it was back then, that's a ludicrous statement.
Do you
Well,
understand though
well,
when the feeding of the 5,000 occurred? Do you understand the instructions that what we've seen in the gospel?
do you know
How
what?
the
Do you know what?
disciples
Do you know what
the,
ergot is?
yeah, but sir, the disciples walked around with baskets and handed out
Do
fish
you
and loaves
do
of
you
bread.
know? Do you know what ergot is?
Hey, reconsider.
Let me
I love to have a on another day conversation. This is just isn't my type of conversation,
No,
and it's just gonna get me heated. I
no.
don't agree with.
that's fine.
I don't
That's fine. It
I don't
scares a
agree
lot
with
of
any of.
Christians.
It's
No,
not. It's not scary.
let me let me
It's
jump
not
in.
scary. It's
But
just I don't want.
my question is,
It's
do
not
you know
scary to
what
me. I
ergot
just
is?
don't want to be involved. Listen, buddy. Listen. I don't agree with any of your claims. I don't agree with any archaeological finds. If you think that there is one, I don't agree with any of the authors
Hey,
that you gave us.
that's
I
fine.
don't want. I don't.
That's the
I
problem
don't
with
want to get heated.
Christians that they
So
do not
Well,
want to
Ryan,
accept
hang on. Let me jump in real
when
quick before.
science jumps in.
Ryan,
They don't want it.
I'll message you, and then if we can talk another night, all
Yeah.
good, brother. If
Let,
not, no
okay.
harm done.
Hey, I
Hey,
appreciate.
you go ahead. Go ahead.
Appreciate.
Go ahead.
I didn't mean to run you off there,
No.
No, you didn't
JL.
run me off. I just
You
don't want to have a
know,
conversation
Hey,
about this.
JL.
Ryan, go ahead real quick before
I
I leave.
understand you're scared of it. That's all right.
JL. No.
Earth, nobody is scared of your claims that have no backing and no actual
No,
evidence.
they have
Right?
plenty of backing.
Earth, hang on a second.
plenty of
Hang on a second,
But they
guys.
don't. They
Yeah,
don't.
but I want to talk to JL just for a second
I
before
think
he.
the host is trying to speak.
Yeah, I just want to talk to JL a second before he leaves. First of all, before I forget, thanks for all your the administrative help. I couldn't. Yeah, I learned a lot from you as far as how this works. So
Not a problem, brother.
I appreciate it. As I said at the beginning, I enjoy theological conversations. I feel qualified or equipped to have them. I'm starting to steer more toward I don't see the benefit in them as much. So I'm happy to join you, and we can talk through why what I think of Matthew 16, or what I think of like Paul's when Peter and Paul in Acts 15 they had kind of a heart to heart and they parted ways. There's a whole bunch of what you said that makes me curious about that, but my hope is to realize that I am Protestant and you are Catholic, and I don't know, and we'll talk to Earth after you go. I don't know. He sounds like he's either like a kind of a polytheistic or taking some from each religion, but also seeing the harm that religion causes worldwide and has throughout human history. I feel like that sums up what he shared, but I'm sort of tired of feeling like we are adversaries. I know you said you have adversaries on the other line. I don't foresee myself in the future of this getting into intense debates about theological issues. I enjoy it. I enjoy those discussions. I just don't think they're productive. And I think whether you look at Jesus or Peter or Paul, they kind of had the same idea that you have to be united, and you have to be united in love. And he says, people will know that you are my disciples by the way that you love one another. And I think we're so tribal now, so argumentative, so what side are you on? I'm on the other side, and let's rip each other's heads off. I just feel like you are a follower of Jesus. I am as well. We have that in common. I mentioned before, I think atheists and agnostics would enjoy this church, but that's a longer explanation.
No,
and JL, I promise you, I did not mean to offend you in any manner or whatever.
I'm not offended at all. I just
but the reality is that when someone offers an alternative perspective, most Christians cannot handle it, and that's what I have a problem.
Earthly, listen, buddy. Look. I understand that you have these beliefs, but
well, you don't even understand my beliefs, so I mean,
buddy, you think that Jesus used hallucinogenic substances to basically brainwash his disciples? And
I didn't say brainwash. Did I ever say brainwash?
What does hallucinogenic things do to somebody that has 12 disciples?
It doesn't brainwash someone.
Have you ever experienced it?
So the people that took those substances in a cult, they weren't brainwashed?
Have you ever experienced it yourself?
I don't think he said it was a cult either.
Also, too, though, yeah, but those people that do end up taking hallucinogenic substances, they end up taking one that does fatally, do something. The whole point of this, and you bringing this up, is that there is no historical or scientific evidence of them using any hallucinogenics whatsoever.
No,
It's not found in the Bible. It's not found in anybody's writings.
Just because it's not in the Bible doesn't mean it's not true.
I said it's not found in anyone else's writings, including scholars.
No, it is.
Any scholar that you do give me, I guarantee you I will be able to find some type of heresy that comes out of their mouth or some type of writing.
There you go. You're going back and falling on what the Catholics would call heresy, which is exactly what
you understand.
They did that to the Cathars. They did that to the Albigenese.
Well, I don't.
There's many people that happened.
Earth. If we didn't poke out heretics, then Arianism would be completely overtaken because there was a pope who was an Arianist. So if we did not,
I don't mind being called a heretic, so that doesn't bother me.
Okay, but we had a pope that was a heretic, and we got away. We that was done with. They were like, "Hey, we're not doing that." If we did not do that, then all of our Christology would be completely messed up. So
I know the church's history, so it's not.
Okay,
you're not,
so
you're
it is
not
a great thing that we poke out heretics that are being heretics.
I understand why they did it. That's how you do. That's how control works, and that's
it's not control. It's when you find a heretic that is spreading.
That's how the Vatican has survived for 2,000 years.
No, the Vatican has survived for 2,000 years because Christ promised that the gates of hell would not. We promised that it would not prevail. The gates would not prevail. So that is clearly shown.
We're going into ideology, and that's
it's not ideology. It is Church Fathers' teachings. It is early Christian teachings.
So that's exactly what an ideology is.
That's what ideology is.
It's actually the same teachings that were the same teachings for 1,500 years.
And the only stop for a minute.
The only thing that I want to do with Brian is have a conversation with him without having some type of weird heretic thing.
Oh
So
my God,
Ryan,
can you stop
Ryan,
talking, let
I'll send you a
somebody else
DM.
speak?
The main reason why I became Catholic was because of the Eucharist, because of what it says about the Eucharist,
Wow.
what Jesus says in John 6. I'd love to talk to you about it. If you don't want to, brother, not up for a debate, just a friendly conversation. But
I'm
other
always
than
Well,
that,
down.
I'm
like you,
trying to have one now, but you
Reconsider. This
seem to
is
want
where
to
no,
you
run
because
use
what
the
away.
you're,
mute
because
button
no,
because he's not
because
letting anybody else talk.
no, because what you're
I'm just
doing is
saying.
Yeah.
you're spreading blasphemy by saying that Jesus Christ used
All right, so
hallucinogenic
I'm a
substances
blaspheming
in
heretic. Okay,
communion when he
that
was
that's
doing.
not that's
Do
that's
you
the nice
Earth,
Christian way to
Earth?
be to
It's
somebody
not.
that's
I'm
trying to.
being very polite. I'm not calling you names.
Hey,
If
you
you
just called me
think
a heretic and a
no, I mean
blasphemer,
right
so
now it is. Right now that is being true.
you
You are being
you
a
know,
blasphemer. Do
All
you
right.
think
and,
that
and I
Jesus?
don't,
Let's
and
take
that
a
doesn't
break.
bother me.
Earth, real quick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ryan. I don't mean to overtake this. All right, I'll be going after
But
this.
you
But
are.
do you
If
really
you're
think
sorry
that
that you're
Jesus
doing it, then
Christ?
stop doing
Do
it.
you really think that Jesus Christ, who's the Messiah, all right, the Messiah, the Anointed
And
One, would go?
according to
I don't care if
you,
you don't believe in it. That's fine. This is more for Ryan.
no,
If you think
okay.
that Jesus Christ was the Messiah, the Anointed One, and at the Passover dinner before he sacrifices himself for us,
Do you
that he
know
would
what
use
oils they use to anoint him?
hallucinogenic substances in the
Do you know
communion
the
cups.
substances they made those
I
oils
think
out
that
of?
is it's not it's buddy, you think that there was oil in the communion cups?
No, you're talking about anointing.
No,
And
you said that they put
do you know what the
hallucinogenic. No,
substances were that they
your
used to
original
make the
claim, sir,
anoint?
sir,
Do you
your
know?
original
Do you
claim
know
was
that they
that they put
used? Do you
hallucinogenic
know
All
that
things
they
right.
inside of the
Let's take a
communion cup.
break. Let's take a break.
Your
in the
claims are
temple they
false, buddy, and now
used
you're going back on your
marijuana
claims.
smoke?
Ryan,
I
Ryan,
mean, really?
Ryan,
Yeah,
I'll send you a
message.
DM if you want to talk about it, buddy. I
If
don't
you
want to
can't
take over your
if you
live
can't
anymore.
handle
All
history,
right.
you can't handle
Ryan,
history.
I apologize for anything that if I took over, I'm very
No,
sorry, but I'd love to have a
I appreciate the
conversation.
time. We'll change topics anyway because this
Yeah, you're
is.
good. If you
Yep.
want to kick me, it raises your algorithm, by the way.
Oh, is that true?
It
From
is
what I've been
true.
Hey,
hearing, yes.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
say
that's what
say
we.
that.
If
always the
somebody drops
martyrs.
out of the live on their own, Ryan, it drops your algorithm. If you
Yes.
drop someone out, then it raises it. It's really weird.
It's
Oh,
crazy.
I couldn't care less. I want to do it for the practice of it, but I
Go
don't.
for it, brother. Go for
There
it.
are
All
times
good.
that people like encourage you to tap the screen, which I don't. No one ever
Hmm.
has to do.
Hey, we'll do that too.
Disconnect. No, please don't. Don't waste your
No,
time or your.
tap the screen. That gets
No,
more followers to come in
it
too.
doesn't matter to me. Like I appreciate the efforts, but I would rather just have sit back and relax.
Well,
I have done this.
I did not mean to run JL
No,
off,
I
but
understand.
I was trying to point out that it's really horrible that when I do talk to Christians and give them a differing opinion, I mean, he became very defensive, called me a heretic, called me a blasphemer. I mean, that's that. I mean, in itself, if I was still Christian, damn, that would be reason enough right there to want to damn get the hell out of it.
Yeah,
So,
I
Earth,
hear you.
And
I do. I do. I err too much, so I'll probably learn the hard way if I spend more time on TikTok with giving people the benefit of the doubt. I don't like. I know it was heated, and I know he gets very passionate about his Catholicism. He said at the beginning that I think that's why he's on TikTok is to kind of advance the Catholic
and talking
belief
down to
system.
Andy in the comments,
Oh, I didn't. I missed all that too.
if I
Well,
had the book in front of me, I could tell you exactly whose name he is. It's not too hard. There's a book that's called the Keys to Immortality.
yeah.
I can't remember the author's name. The scholar from the 60s, I cannot remember his name. He was the first one that brought it up about drugs being used.
No,
And
I'm familiar. I'm
and
familiar with a lot of those things.
and it is a fact that you can go back into the medieval history and look at how ergot, which is from bread, when it itself
when it
gets this
starts to
mold,
mold.
it
Yeah.
gets a mold on it,
Yep.
and it is hallucinogenic. I mean, and the other fact is that there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, he was saying it like it was a brainwashing thing, and I would look at it and say, well, Jesus himself was probably more like Timothy Leary saying, open your mind, people. And that's what he was saying is open your mind, open your heart. And most of the time when people do mushrooms and things like that, that's exactly what happens. They become very touchy-feely loving. They're very, unless they're, really in their mind already, have issues, and I don't suggest just anybody go out and do it without some guidance. They're not suggesting people do this at all, but it can be a very wonderful experience in your life that helps you. It's been proven to help alcoholics. It's been proven to help with depression. There's so many different things that are scientifically based that it cannot be denied. So if Jesus was all knowing and all God, I'm sure he knew those things.
So Ryan, I'll say this. I don't know. I just met Earth Citizen. I just met JL. I know you a little bit, right? And I appreciate you so much. Um, so I don't know a lot, but actually I don't know anything about the D-Rug situation that Earth Citizen is talking about. What I do know is that what he's saying about JL's behavior is very much true. And the fact that he got so defensive and he wasn't even willing to speak with Earth Citizen anymore when Earth Citizen said something that didn't align with his ideology. And that is a huge part.
Yeah.
If you'll start listening to people, people like JL is a huge reason that people have left the church.
Yeah. It's the number one reason, like I said, and I have them. I think I don't know. I know Streaker. I forget where we connected before. It was on a different live.
Princess's live.
Yeah. I love coming on Princess and Mr. Society. Those are the first people I met. I mean, I tried this 2.5 weeks ago for the first time, and I got on one live and then over to Princess. Princess was on that live and then invited me to come join after that. But this is the project, and maybe you knew this already, but I mentioned before, I work as a hospice chaplain, so folks that are nearing the end of their lives is where I come in, and I am not I am Christian, but I did this for the first 12 years of my career in Chicago, and it was a very obviously culturally diverse. I had Buddhist patients and Muslim patients and Hindu patients and a lot of Jehovah's Witness and you name it, because it was Chicago. All like anything you could run into, I had experience with. I moved to Oklahoma 3.5 years ago to help with my mom at the end of her life.
So I'm sorry about your mom. I'm also sorry that you moved to Oklahoma.
I know.
I'm so sorry.
I know. Neither one of I was grateful. Like I wouldn't have chosen it either, but we are around a big enough city that is not probably what most people would think. Oklahoma, living here is different than what I thought before I moved down here. What I anticipated.
How close are you to Edmond?
Yeah. Oh, So I'm over by Tulsa, and most of our neighborhood is pretty progressive, I think. And so like everybody the network that we've built of people around here are not a very strongly conservative bunch. Neither one of us, my wife or myself.
Really?
Oh yeah, not at all. Like we have a whole network. We have a whole network of people, but they're all very left. I find, MAGA probably is insufferable as the next person, but it's part of the reason that I felt the need to make this. It's because they're synonymous now. It seems like to be Christian or to be a follower of Christ or whatever term folks use means to be conservative politically. And my response to that is, no, it doesn't. Those two things are not the same. And I know there's lots of progressive churches, so it's not like I'm a pioneer. I'm not the first person to do this. There's Episcopal churches and other churches that are, well, you guys know better than I do. Earth, did you say that, I thought you mentioned that you are a member of that community as well.
I am, but I also, as a non-believer, attended a local, very progressive church. And the reason that I stuck around for your live was because you said that about that atheists would probably enjoy your quote unquote church. And
I think you would.
When I went to this progressive church, they were very active in a lot of things, progressive things that are, feeding the homeless. And, I wanted to be around people like that. Yeah. The first 4 people I met were atheists. And so when I finally got to meet the pastor and things like that, and met people who, claimed to be Christians, it was one of the first times I really truly felt like I had met some real genuine, Christians.
Yeah.
And within that church were Buddhists and people like me that were heretic, blaspheming pagans or whatever. And, I was, even asked multiple times to speak to the church, and I did. And they were very accepting because they were open minded, which is the thing that I think that JL may have already closed his mind. And that's okay because people do that, and I'm used to it. My own family's done it. So many people do it when they get into the church because they think a certain philosophy has to come out of it, which quote unquote is this conservative, quote unquote, MAGA world type thinking. And, that's not what I believe. And even though I have these comments about using substances and things like that, that was not meant to be my main point of contention at all. I was just stating the fact that, there is some evidence going on that, they've shown that, in the temple, they used hemp, and there were different things, and ergot is something that, goes along with bread. So he was talking about the bread being given out, and it wasn't meant as a swipe to say that they were brainwashed. It was more of a thing that says, hey, we're in the 2025. Let's look at the world, realistically and with a little bit of science here. There are negatives and positives about the use of these things, just as they are. The guy in the comments, Andy, says, oh, what does a person develops an addiction dependency and this causes their life and life around them to crumble? Doesn't sound very godlike. Well, that might have been the kind of, addicts or whatever that were, in his sphere. But I know many, many people that have had wonderful spiritual experiences that cannot be denied. And, they can be used in conjunction and have been used by, native people throughout history across the world. So it's not unlikely that the Jewish tradition had a esoteric underpinning that, followed that line. And Jesus was on the outside of that. He probably wasn't a Essene. He probably wasn't a Pharisee or a Sadducee. He probably wasn't a Essene. And, if you take that, for, the historical points, you just got to be a little bit more open-minded to what it means. And it doesn't necessarily diminish what you may believe as a Christian. It may enhance it if you look at it fully. And that wasn't my main point about religion. My main point about religion is that, no matter which they are, there's some good ones out there. Christianity in its highest form is and can be a very loving thing. But at the same time, the organized aspects of it have been so destructive to the masses of humanity, and that's what I was wanting to really speak upon, because you said you're a church for people who left church.
Right.
And most of the people that have had horrendous things happen to them because of the church don't get heard by people like JL, because they're just defenders of the faith, and they're fighting against the heretics and the blasphemers like me that might bring a different perspective. But there's a great book, Bishop Spong wrote, which is Christianity Must Change, or I can't say the last word.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Unalive. And, it was a great book that Christians did not listen to when he wrote it back in the, 70s. And, it's sad. It's sad because most Christians really should have read that book.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you came up. there's the only thing that we do as a church is we do three things each month. We read a book of the Bible together. We pray for each other as we like throughout the month as we're reading through, and then we do stuff to help the poor. That's it. No, I'm not. I will never, under any circumstance, accept money here. The first time I was on TikTok, someone like gave a heart or a rose or something like that, and I was like, if that's like, I am very opposed to any money at all. This church will never
So
ask for a tithe or please, hey, if you like our mission or what we're trying to do, please send me $10. I wish there's probably a way to turn it off. I don't want any.
you
Um,
can turn your gifts off, Ryan.
yeah,
Um, so if you don't have to turn those gifts into cash if you don't want to. You can take the gifts that anybody gives you, and you can turn around and let's say that Earth was having a rough time or whatever. You can turn that around and gift
You,
him
you
your
can
gifts.
gift them.
yeah. Here's
Hmm.
my. I had that thought, and again, I don't anticipate ever having like lots of people here. It's a small audience. Although there's a lot of people that have left church, so who knows? But what I did, like, I was on a literally the second day I had tried TikTok, and I was listening to a guy named Good Trouble. Have either of you guys heard of him or seen him?
I
Oh, I
love
love
Good
good
Trouble.
trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
We said it together.
he's one of my favorites, and he is, from what I can piece together. I mean, I haven't watched him for thousands of hours, but I think he's ethnically Jewish and religiously, like spiritually agnostic or atheist, maybe. Um, from what I gather, but I went on his live the second night. So the first night, I think I might have met Streaker the first night I was on. It'll be 3 weeks ago this Friday. And I got on. It was a guy named Viper Vet. Was the first I went into over to live and I scrolled up and it was a guy named Viper Vet who's a veteran, and he was talking about like service stuff that I have never served. So I was like just learning a whole bunch from the conversation. And I was practicing just like I was tonight. I didn't have an intention of having a conversation tonight, although I'm loving it. I was on the couch trying to figure out how to put these pictures in the background. A church for people who left church, and now it's too low. It needs to be like up higher. So I was practicing on live, trying to figure out how to do live. But 3 weeks ago, I was with Princess, and then the next night I went into Good Troubles, and he's got thousands of people watching his thing. And I practiced, and I hit the request up, and a minute later, he was like, "Hey, reconsider. How you doing?" Which I didn't know was going to happen, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
You didn't
Like,
even realize you were on the panel, did you?
no, there was no other panel.
Yeah.
It was just me.
Oh, okay.
I think he was just starting. He starts at like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, typically, or somewhere in there. It's usually when I'm going to bed.
I think he
And I
usually
was,
just takes one at a time too.
well, at the end, he has a whole panel. Like, I think he goes like 2 hours because I've watched him, and he goes like 2 hours, and the first 20, 30, 40 minutes are just him, and he'll bring up one person at a time. At least that's like, maybe not always, but that's the handful of times I've watched him. That's how it goes. And so he didn't have anybody there, and I was clicking on the bottom, and it was like request up, and I was like, all right, request, and I kind of said, and it was like 11 other people requesting up, and so I was like, that's not something that'll happen, and he brought me up, which was wild. I was so first I was like nervous. I was just like I didn't understand. He was like, hey, how you doing? I was just like, me, and he was like, yeah, you, and I was like, I'm awesome, man. Like, this is incredible that I'm talking to you. Thanks for the opportunity. And I was so like nervous slash excited that I don't really. I think I could recall everything that we discussed, but I wished I would have had a recording of it. I tried to get it. There's no way to get it.
No, the recordings go to the host.
I
So every
know.
time you're hosting one, you'll get a recording of it.
Yeah, and I'm even having problems with that because when I go into live, when I go to the studios and I go to live, and then I scroll down to my live recordings and it just closes the app.
Really?
Yeah, like with
It's really odd.
the app works fine, but as soon as I go into studios and then click on lives and then go down to live recordings, as soon as I tap on live recordings, the app crashes. And
Mm.
it happens every single time I do it. But anyway, that was a wild night. I was on the panel for like an hour. So he and I talked, just the two of us, for 45 minutes. It was incredible. And then somebody else came on and we had some exchanges. And then, oh no, before somebody else came on, he said, "Hey, reconsider." And I was like, "What's up?" And he's like, "Thanks for this conversation. I'm going to bring some other people up and it's going to get really loud and really crazy really quickly." And it absolutely did. Like even the people that came up have huge followings themselves, and so I've sat in the bottom. I was like, "You can kick me out or I can leave." And he's like, "No, you're cool. You can hang out." And I did for another hour after that. But
Well, I
like,
also think that one of the reasons that I wanted to stop in here and talk was that I'm trying to, um, I'm not going to say rehabilitate myself, but I'm trying to learn to talk to Christians again, um, because they are so, in so many cases, so hard to talk with. And being that I joined some of the deconstruction ones and things like that. Even though I'm not deconstructing, I mean, I'm 63 years old, so I mean, I've been a heretic blasphemer for quite a time now. And the thing that most
congratulations.
the thing that most people don't realize is that I'm like you, Ryan. I mean, I studied, and I forgot what you said your name was. Strike
Frankie.
Frankie. Um, I know that y'all both have, studied this, whether it was within the Greek, and I did like what you said, went and took some Hebrew at the temple to try to do a little bit better, and but I think I did what you know the yogi Krishnamurti did, years ago, where you go and you practice a religion for a period of time to get to really know it. And then at the end, you sort of realize, well, they're all sort of leading to God. Well, most Christians don't like to hear that because the hostile form of Christianity is very arrogant in that it says it's the one and only way,
Mm-hmm.
and they will say that and they'll quote Jesus on it and all this other stuff. And that is another one of the turnoffs. If you want to pull out another card and write down the turnoffs, it's a very arrogant religion. And it really has, what I'm trying to do now with myself is that, I'm at a point to where, you know, JL's opinion of me doesn't really, phase me in one bit or anything like that. And, when people tell me I'm dying and going to, to Hades or whatever, that doesn't do anything for me, because I've had my own spiritual experiences with quote unquote God, and, you know, no one can take that away. The real thing is that, back when I was a Christian as a teenager and a young, I guess I left it when I was in my early 20s, was that I, was begging Jesus to lead me in the direction that I needed to be led.
Mhm.
And I tell people that are Christians, well, why did you leave? You know the Bible so well and blah blah blah. I'm like, well, this is where your deity led me, and he led me this way for a reason. And at least that's what I thought at the time. And people aren't open-minded enough to, in the most cases, because well, if it's not, like JL said, well, it's not in the Bible. That's the other problem, is that the sole use of the sheep herder's guide to the universe really isn't fulfilling to a lot of people. And there were other things going on in the Middle East at the time, and they were, Jesus was raised in a Roman Greek environment, and even though it was tinged, or not tinged, it was based in the Judaic, practices of the time. A lot of people don't want to talk about, well, did Jesus go to India and study in India? Well, you know, Thomas himself, that's where that apostle ended up, and there's many things that point to the direction that Jesus studied some things that really aren't mentioned. And we should be open to the fact that there was a lot of transmigration of thought going on at that time at that location. It wasn't an isolated little, you know, Jewish little village of, everybody wants to, make you think it was. It's sort of like when people give pictures of Abraham, everybody wants to say, well, he was this Bedouin. He was a general leader of a, army and came out of the city of Ur, which is a Sumerian city. And, there's history that gets ignored by Christians. And that's my, you know, thing of wanting to come back and learn how to talk with Christians, because I feel like they're very uneducated on their own religion. Most of
Yeah,
They're
them have
extremely
most of
uneducated on the Bible, very
yeah.
much
well,
so.
most of them haven't read it. So, at least I can say I've read it.
Can I tell
And
you? Can I tell you another piece of background? Just
sure.
just how it informed this church. Um, so I have some 3x5 cards. I know it's like an outdated way to do things, but the first time I had to ask the question when I did an initial assessment, what is your religious background? It made me. I hated that it was on there. I was so furious because the 12 years that I worked in Chicago and doing the same job, also in hospice chaplaincy, I never had to answer that or ask that question. There was a line on the form that I could put religion if somebody told me, "Hey, I'm Catholic." I could write it on there, but I didn't have to do it to go to the next screen. And when I moved here, of course, the initial assessment packet, or it's online, of course, it's on on iPads, but it says religion there, and it's blue, which means I have to put something on that line in order to go to the next screen. And so I initially was like, I'll just put whatever. If it comes up organically in conversation, I'll write down the religion. If not, I'll just put like non-denominational or something to get past it. But I ended up being, and it was 3 years ago this August. It just passed 3 years ago, where I sat with a guy. It was his wife that was on service. I was sitting with a guy, and he said something along the lines of, "I'm Lutheran, but I haven't gone in 20 years or something." And I was just like, interesting. What made you stop going? And when we had a whole conversation about it, and then that prompted me to now ask now I love the question, like, because I learned so much from it. Like, what made you stop going? A lot of people say I'm part of this church and I've been going for 30 years and I'm still very involved in the church and I still go every Sunday, and that's great. But there's a increasing number of people who are like, I'm out for, and then fill in the blank for the reason. There's 13 of them. So the first time I heard it, this guy number 10, he said that the reason that he stopped going to church is because the churches don't teach the Bible anymore. That's what he told me. And it wasn't the most common answer. This is how I've done it. It was number 10. There was 13 answers that I got more than once. So in order to make the list, I had to hear something at least twice. And this number 10 is they don't teach the Bible. I had 8 people that gave that as the reason, and it's reason number 10. But number 7 is, and you can see how scratched out it is because people kept replying. I kept asking, but it's just that issue. 13 people gave that the LGBTQ as their primary reason. Now, most people had more than one reason. They would say, like, I left church because of this, this, and this. Number 8 is yours from the sound of things. There was 11 people that said they no longer believe. That was the number 8 reason. So I took the 13 reasons and kind of lined them up. Number 1 is how judgmental and hateful Christians are. That's the most common response I got. Number 2 was either like, I don't know what words I can say or not, but church hurt is not the correct term, but I sort of used a blanket umbrella for people who were hurt by the church, but some of them it was very traumatic, much or yeah, all different reasons that people left. Some people, like, they went through a divorce and their church was like, you're like, shame on you, so they couldn't go anymore. They were made to feel like they shouldn't come anymore. Sure. So anyway, I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's how I got here, because I'm just curious. I'll introduce you to Joey in 1 second. Thanks for joining.
No, 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 you're good. I was just wondering because I couldn't see the caption of it. and so I was just wondering what it was all about. I'm not trying
Yeah.
to debate or anything. I just want to have a decent conversation.
Yeah, you're in the right spot for that. Well, let me. I was going to ask Earth and Streaker, or do you prefer Frankie? I don't know which one's better, but
You know what? It's so funny. It wasn't until Brandy, who's good friends with Princess, it wasn't until I went in Brandy's life. People have always either called me the full name TikTok Streaker, or they call me Frankie.
I love it.
I have this name on here, by the way, because it was a dare. So
That's a good name. Did you
it
lose, or
wasn't.
someone
That's a
just?
good name.
Yes, I lost. So when I started going in Brandy's live, she just started calling me Street, and you know what? I stinking love that.
Yeah, Streak.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, yeah, Joey. If you, yeah, I don't even remember where I was, but the short, I guess the short version is I collected over 3 years. I collected all these reasons that people gave for why they left the church, and at the and then I've kind of been like that. Then I wrestled with the question of, is that an inherent risk of church? Should that be part of what being part of church means? Like, hey, it comes with it some paid in judgment, or some hurt, or some financial manipulation with the tithing. Or like, do these things have to be part of the church? And the more I thought about them, the more I'm like, no, they shouldn't be. And no, this one shouldn't be. Or no, the church, like money in the church is horrible.
Yes, it is.
So do
I
we
agree.
does the church have to have, it's $1 trillion industry in the States, $1 trillion
Oh,
with a T.
100%.
It's
Crazy.
business.
So
So-
can I just give you my background?
Yeah,
I'm
go
an
ahead.
I'm an Eastern Orthodox Christian. I was raised a Protestant in the Southern Baptist Church. Now that I found the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, the one true church that I believe that is founded on Christ, I do think that there's a lot of problems in the modern, Protestant churches, and I do agree with you on that. Especially with church hurt. I've been hurt in church. I've seen money go crazy in a lot of the modern churches, and it's like, we're just giving it to these pastors that are just going to use it for themselves.
Yeah.
I've seen corruption in the church, especially growing up. There was a Baptist church that we went to, and it was one of the reasons our pastor did the church dirty, and we basically left and went to another church. But my conversion started, from I guess reading the early church and what that true church was. I'm not saying that everyone has to be at that church. That's I do recommend people reading the fathers and also history itself. But other than that, I do agree with your stance on that, and I'm not trying to make a debate or anything.
I appreciate it. And we had somebody, I know Earth is probably wants to respond. Earth, let's skip it. We had another guest on, another somebody that was on a little bit before you. I don't know how long you've been in here, but you said you're Eastern Orthodox?
Eastern Orthodox, yeah. Just converted.
Cool. Well, congrats. We had someone who was a Roman Catholic half an hour ago, and did you hear that conversation or no?
I didn't hear that one. I just came in here. I couldn't see the font.
The prompt. Yeah, I need to make it bigger, and I need to raise it up. That's what I was.
It was a little crooked, so I just wanted to figure out. But yeah, I will tell you my stories.
Thank you.
My church that I used to go to had over almost $1 million, in that church, and they were buying like crazy, like they were buying buses, like they had tons of money, like, and I'm like just going to one of those meetings, I was like, well, where's all the money going to, you know? But they
Yeah.
were buying buses like crazy, you know, like they
Brett.
had, you know, bought vans, buses, you know, like is this really what, you know, we're doing, you know, as a church that to, you know, you know, get, I guess, go pick people up and use these vans, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it was just like we we don't hardly use any buses at our church, you know, the church that I went to. But I just felt like, you know, the money was going somewhere. You're right. There's money everywhere in every church in some way, in some form.
No, not anymore.
Um,
Not anymore. No, I'm sure there's churches
Ryan
that
is
are,
going to start us something new.
yeah.
That's what we're here for, Ryan.
If you have some extra dollars, if you have $10 or $20 and you feel like you can spare that to give it to help someone in need,
yeah,
that's all this church does. Not me. I don't send. I'm not gonna.
Well,
So
from a non-believer here, you know, that was one of the other reasons, you know, and you know, the eternal building fund that so many of these churches have, and both the Catholic and the Eastern, you know, have these magnificent churches that you can go to,
yes, they
yeah,
do.
and
Some are small. Like my church.
and I've been to many of them around the world.
Mhm.
The problem I've always had with it is, you know, that that's not what your Jesus told y'all to do. He told you to sell all your follow me. He said sell all your belongings and
You're right.
give everything to the poor. And I haven't seen too many Christians doing that. So you know, when Christians start knocking me for my blaspheming heretic self, you know, being who I am, you know, I look at them and say, well, you know, I'm not following Jesus and neither are you because you're
yeah.
not doing what he said.
No, you know
Yeah.
what
And
a sad reality is. I think most atheists that I encounter that in real life, I'm newer to social media. They are far more willing to help people in need and
Yeah,
to
I agree.
give and
I
to
agree.
so that's why I said maybe that's why Earth came up or somebody else was like
Well,
you said.
can I just be honest? I mean, I usually try to give. I don't have much money, you know.
No, I'm with you. I don't. Yeah,
But I do try to give, and as a Christian, that's what Jesus would have want because he talks about it. He says that those were those people that just walked by the poor. You know, they didn't
yeah.
feed me. They didn't do this unto me.
do
You
you
know,
give to the church or do you give to the
I
poor?
was going to ask that same question, Earth.
I try to help up. So my parish is very small. Like I have a small church. It's not one of those big fancy, you know, those churches from you know the Middle East. No, I usually do help out both. You know, I try
Yeah,
to
that's and I don't
do
want to.
this.
Yeah, I don't want to like. We could go into kind of why I landed with this. First, I want to show you reason number 5 is asking for money or financial corruption. 17 people said that that was the primary reason that they stopped going to church was money, always asking for tithing or financial corruption. Number 4 is politics.
Yeah,
23 people. But I just before we move on to that, I think we would probably all agree that money in the church has caused a lot of problems. And I know Earth would say the church in general throughout its history has caused a lot of problems, not just financial, but otherwise. But the money in the church and the challenges that it brings, and we could talk about them for hours. I'm sure you could too, but
Well, it's that verse, you can't
So,
worship God and mammon.
yeah, yeah.
So,
And I think
so,
that
so Ryan, I can like all of the reasons that you've given except for politics because I wasn't involved with politics when I was involved with the church. So I don't I that I've learned over the years. But all of the other reasons that you've given, I can tell you something that has happened to me within the church about every single one of those reasons.
yeah,
I'll give you one that enveloped several, right? I was a single mom with a 6-year-old son. Um, and I was barely And when I say barely, I mean barely. We were skating by on rice and beans, right? I had a full-time job, but I also had to pay for rent. I also had to pay for my son's medication, my medication, like all of the things. Um, and I used to work at, so our church had a food pantry that operated Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And I used to volunteer at the food pantry. Um, and there was one week that I was like, oh, I tithed like so incredibly faithfully, it wasn't even funny. Um, and there was one week that I just didn't have it. And so I went to church on Sunday night, and they used to do this thing where if people were like really down on their luck or whatever, if you hung around after church and you told them what your needs were, they would go in the back and they would bring you out like a couple of bags of groceries, stuff like that. So I stayed after that night, and I now this was a mega church. We had like 12 pastors, and that didn't include like the children's pastors. Like it was huge. And so I hung around afterwards, and I told Pastor Lloyd, I said, I just don't, I'm not going to make it this week. And I said, I drove here tonight on prayers and fumes. And he was like, well, like, it's not really our the regular thing that we do to give people just give people cash. And I was like, I'm not asking you for $100. I'm asking
Yeah.
for enough so that I can drive home. Like that's what I need. So he went in the back and he came out and he gave me a bag of groceries and he gave me a check for $5. Please tell me what I was going to do with a check at 9 o'clock on Sunday night.
Hmm.
And I was stuck and I didn't have the gas to get home. I had to call my roommate to come and get me from church. And I was just like,
How long ago was that? Just out of curiosity.
this was okay. I've got to think about how old my kid is. Um,
Better yet, out
my
the
oldest,
mega
my
church.
oldest son. So he was 6. That would have been 34 years ago.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you remember that night like it was yesterday, I would imagine, huh?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I also remember the night after I came out as being transgender that I was absolutely 100% ousted by my church, where I had gone for years, and I was no longer welcome there.
And when JL earlier was talking about, Simon, who used to be called Peter, and all that. I don't know if you saw it, but that was what I was saying. It was like sort of when people are, transgender, they change their name, and you don't say their unalive name anymore. You call them what they want to be called, and you have it in the church, but they don't respect that for people like you, because they're self-righteous.
Now, I have been told about a church, um, they call it the UU church.
Yeah, you
Um,
use can be, but depending on where you go, they can be pretty decent.
okay. That's the church that I've heard about that is open to anybody.
They
So,
are. They're open to all religions, and they don't claim to. When people attack them for not being Christian, they're okay with that because they don't claim to be solely Christian because they recognize what I said earlier, which is that all paths ultimately in religion are trying to lead you to a deity of, that oneness of God and, the love of humanity and how we should treat each other. I mean, Jesus himself only gave you them one rule, which is, doing to others as you'd have them doing to you. And
right.
that fulfills all of the law. And people don't want to hear that because they're, you know, it's so much fun or more fun to be, have somebody to look down on. And that's the problem with the church in
Yeah.
lots of ways is that self-righteousness has become a weapon where they use it. So, I'm going to heaven. Jesus saved me. You're going to hell. You're a damn sinner and all those things. And you think that's attractive to somebody that's on the outside that maybe would want to be a Christian? No. There's people that get on the street corners and, tell all the alphabet people like myself and you that, we're dying and going to hell and burning well and all that good stuff. You think that is appetizing to us to the point to where we would even want to look at your religion?
That's not working. That's not working for you guys.
It's not working.
Yeah, I don't know what they're. I don't know what they're thinking. Streaker, I know you said that was that night, and that's a combination, I think, of like, I don't understand that the church is not going to help, but also, yeah. So you've had that.
Did you save the $5 check?
I believe it sat on my dresser for a really long time, because my roommate took me back up to the church the next morning and put a gas can full of gas in my car for me. And it sat on my dresser for a really long time. I was so angry, and so I refused to cash it. And then eventually, I didn't tear it up, but my kid might have, like, just messing with stuff. I don't know what happened to the check.
That's a long time ago. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I did have one other question. Streak. We'll go with Streak. Frankie, Streaker, TikTok Streaker. The church that made you, like, when you came out and the church was like, you are not welcome here. Did they say that, or did they just make it very clear? Do you remember, like, I don't know how long ago that was?
No, Pastor Lloyd told me that
you're not welcome here.
That I wasn't welcome in his church any longer. Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
I'm sorry.
How did your family? Because I've had family that has done the same thing, and that's the worst thing, is that they're quote unquote Christian, and my own family has turned their backs on me because I'm who I am, and that's the worst part. Screw the church, excuse my language, but when your own family does it to you and they're claiming to be Christians, that hurts even worse. Did you have that happen, Frankie?
So my family that's around me, my children, my grandchildren, and my husband, believe it or not, they are all very supportive.
Right.
The one person, and here's the thing, like, I came out that many years ago, but I did never come out to my mother because I was terrified. And so I just kept it hidden. And keeping it hidden doesn't change who I am as a person. And my mother had come over, and she was extremely angry at me for voting for Joe Biden, and called me stupid. And I said, I'm stupid? I said, not only am I stupid, Mom, I'm transgender. And so I said it out of anger. And so we don't have a relationship because me being who I am is just too hard for her. She can't handle it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry. I have so much support from the other people in my life.
My mother and my sister did the same to me. And, it's sad. It really is. But, and I have to say the politics turned it even more. And Ryan, when you're saying that about, your card there, that politics is a big thing, I personally think the church is a political thing, and it has always been a political thing, and it cannot get away from it. It needs to be. And those on the progressive left in churches, Christian churches, need to stand up and be a lot louder than they already are, because they've let the other side, demolish what Christianity really is. We used to not think as bad of Christians as we do now because of this white Christian nationalist thing that has happened to the Christianity.
Yeah.
And, as somebody on the outside, it's, easy to pick it apart. But at the same time, I do have real dear friends and family that, even if they don't talk to me, that are Christians, that I wished, could be a little bit more open to a conversation. And I think that's what you're trying to do here,
Or
Ryan.
maybe just be a little more like Christ.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I mean,
there's no. Yeah, you're spot on. Um, the rise of Christian nationalism, and I agree with you that I don't know that the church and the government have ever not been merged and to some degree, but it's worse now, right? Like it's
yes,
kind of gotten to a point now where this idea that like you have to be on board with what we're seeing it to be a Christian is the part that I'm like, that's not
well,
that.
you are in Oklahoma, so you would know.
Yeah, and I know it's different down here, but it's weird. Like I was in Chicago for so long, and I know that that's a headline the last few days, and sounds like it will be in the days ahead. My old city, my old stomping grounds. But it's hard to get like a real idea of what's going on to me. You try to find people that I trust or that I think are telling the truth but money's in everything. So like whoever you listen to, you're like, you have to have in the back of your mind, like how much are they getting paid to
Can I ask you something else?
yeah.
I mean, that's Sarah Huckabee's state, correct?
No, she's Arkansas. We're way worse.
Arkansas. Okay.
We're much
Okay.
we're much
I,
worse.
I, well, my thing was about the Huckabees themselves, how Huckabee now is the ambassador over to Israel and all
Yeah.
that. And we have these, this is the other thing I have that's a bothersome sore point for me is, let me see how to put it.
If
The
it has words in it that you're not sure if you can use, you can always spell them out.
No, it's not that. It's that I'm trying to say it in a way that's not really, well, it is what it is. The Armageddon, end of the world stuff within Christianity has been there from the very beginning and
No.
is all wrapped up within. Yeah, well, I mean, I went to Patmos and put my hand where, John got out of the cave and all that good stuff. It was the most evil feeling and place that I have ever, and I've been to a lot of, places that, could have had some
Where is
evil.
that earth?
The island of Patmos.
The island of
Yeah.
Patmos,
Okay.
in Greece. And, at the same time, a couple days later, I went to Turkey and went to what the Catholics think, in a vision was given to this lady to be the house of Mary. And it was the most loving place that I have ever been. So the two extremes were very different because of the energy of, you had the Mother Mary energy that was over in Turkey, and then you had this patriarch, end of the world, apocalyptic, Armageddon energy that was in Patmos. And the my belief, because of my practices and my personal belief in the world, is that our thoughts are things. I mean, in the Bible it says, you are as you think. And we have created this dystopian world that we're living in because a good portion of it wants this Armageddon to happen because they think that Jesus is going to come save them in the end. And it has been so detrimental to history. And at this time is a horrendous thing in our politics because we have these crazy people that are actually this end of the world apocalypse, bring it on, in the government itself over there trying to hook up with Israel, to do these things. And to me, that is like the culmination of what is going to be the final nail in the coffin for Christianity if Christianity does not change. And I have hopes because, I mean, when I was, studying to be a minister myself, I mean, I believed a lot of these things that, Christians believe. And the things that I latched onto were the things that, were those positive things that Jesus said, which is, love one another, and, try to lift up, and least thing you do to the children, you do unto me. And people have forgotten that in Christianity because of,
That's a big one,
um,
though, Earth,
what do you mean? Excuse me.
about the children.
Oh, I mean, it's the biggest. I mean, because, we've got this G-side that's going on right now
Yep.
in that land of Palestine, and it's a horrendous thing. I don't know how much I can say with that without getting Ryan in trouble,
Yeah.
and don't want to, because it's a whole nother topic, I know. But my point is that
No, it's I mean, a very relevant and current topic. I think one of my frustrations with the church is they sort of pop their heads into politics like September, October every few years, and then it's
Hmm.
immediately afterward, it's like, you know what? We just care about the Bible and the gospel of Jesus, and we don't really get into politics. And they try
well,
to
that's
separate
not.
themselves. After they didn't separate themselves, they tried to separate themselves. I'm like, what are you doing? You guys made this bed, and now you're
Yeah,
not.
I sort of laughed at JL saying that when I was still in the comments and I hadn't got up here yet,
Yeah,
and basically said that, hey, you know, it's always political,
yeah.
and you cannot have your religion without being political in
Oh
some
yeah,
fashion.
that's why this church is so hilarious to me. Full disclosure, I didn't have any desire to do this project, and as I've tried to make clear, I will never see any benefit from it monetarily, and it's taken me a lot of time and effort. But I feel a responsibility to do it. I feel obligated, and I know we have different, of course, different like belief systems, but I don't know what is more shameful, to be the religious affiliation I have, or the national affiliation that I have. Like I am, it is so heartbreaking on both of those levels.
Can I tell you one of my more heretic type beliefs that
Sure,
is related to the Bible?
sure.
The Tower of Babel. That story gets so twisted in the Christian world to be about pride and all of this. But if I go and I read it, and you read it without, you know, you know, having any kind of, preconceived conditions about it or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
you read the story, humanity was unified. They were with one voice, and they came and they wanted to, build this tower so that they would not be, scattered abroad and have this name for themselves. And what I think of when I look at that is, why did that deity, Yahweh, come down for the one and only time that humanity has ever been unified according to the Bible and destroy it? What was the problem? Well, if you still read the story in it, you can hear that God was scared of the power of humanity being unified. Because in my mind, the way I look at it, it was because if humanity becomes unified to this point, they're not going to need tribalistic deities like Yahweh. They're going to leave those in the dust of history, the dustbin of history. They're going to come to a conclusion that God is a little bit bigger than that small God of the Old Testament. Okay? And I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if
No, I
I'm
hear you. I hear you.
saying it good
No,
enough.
no, you
But
are.
the story of mankind being united that's in the Bible itself is such a story that, gets left out and gets twisted to be talking about pride and, the whole thing about, this, that they were thinking that they could rise up to the heavens. And I mean, I have some even more bizarre beliefs about that, because I believe that, we probably had an advanced civilization at one time that contributed a lot to our messed up history and our, distorted beliefs in deity.
Mhm.
And, you know, my point is that most Christians do not understand, do not want to understand, do not want to read alternative history that is factual. They don't want to, go to, you always got to go back to the scriptures in the Bible, which is fine if you are a Christian, but when you're talking to somebody that's not, to me, that's, it's like a brick wall that you're putting up to begin with, because, hey, I'm not even, at the point where I believe in your stuff yet. And, why you're reading scripture is the proof of something that, that I wouldn't get. And it doesn't get to the human part of, hey, I love you, you love me, and we can, be a lot better if we have compassion, empathy towards each other than we will if we're just fighting each other all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just a sad, sad thing. And I always look to that story of the Tower of Babel, and like to hear what Christians say about it, because it usually involves that word pride, because they want to bring Lucifer and the devil and all that. And that's the other thing, always blaming the devil for your damn fault.
Yeah.
The devil made me do it. The devil's going to lead you astray. Well, no, you're just a shitty person, excuse my language, and, you're leading yourself.
Oh, you don't have to, I don't care at all about language. I mean, I do about the words that you can't say. I do about the words that'll get me kicked out.
I don't want to say, cussing, excuse me, but
Yeah. Cuss it up.
My point is that, when as a young teenager I was a Christian, I was so idealistic to think that Christianity could be about the compassion that, Jesus purportedly, was. But you never saw it in the Christians themselves, but you did see it in the homeless people, the atheists, the poor people, the people that had, it's a proven fact that poor people contribute more and give more than rich people.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And, we have
the
this
community. My interactions with folks in the LGBTQ community have always been amazing as well. Like that's another, like you mentioned, like they are just, yeah. I know that's a generalization. I don't mean to stereotype, but they're just.
No, but
there was no stereotyping in that.
They're more compassionate. They're more loving. They're more kind. They're more kind of everything that you would hope to see from the Christian community. But I think it comes down to, for me, it shouldn't be that way, in my mind, from my understanding of who Jesus was, reading about him in the New Testament, and my working knowledge of the Bible. It shouldn't be that way, right?
It shouldn't, Ryan. Yeah. And here's the thing: I think that people that are, and listen, when I say people who are talking about those people, you are excluded from that, okay? Yeah. But what I think has happened is that Christians, well, first of all, we know that they love to cherry pick, and they, like Earth said, a lot of them haven't even read the Bible, right? They go to church on Sunday and Wednesday night, Sunday night, and they hear one or two verses within the sermon, and that's it.
Exactly right.
Listen, I will argue on here till my face is blue with Christians, because when they bring up either schmabortion, and I give them like several verses in the Bible that talk about it, and then including the tale of bitter waters, They don't hear about it. When they did the thing, it was either in Oklahoma or Louisiana. I can't remember which state did it first, where they wanted to put a Bible in every classroom. I was like, that's awesome. You know what? Let's do that. And when a 6-year-old goes up to the teacher and says, "What's adultery?" Please tell me how that teacher is supposed to explain it. Or how about the first verse that we teach the kids in school that has a Bible in the classroom is Ezekiel, I think it's 23:20,
Yeah, I did
that
it.
talks about a horse and a donkey,
Yeah.
if you know
Yeah.
what I mean.
Yes, I
So,
do. Have you? I don't know if we follow each other. I think I followed you, hopefully, or you followed
yeah, yeah,
me.
yeah. Yeah.
I did a video about this a few weeks ago. I have a blue T-shirt on. It's an offer that I made to the public school system in Oklahoma that I will volunteer because they mandate this. Ryan Walters, you're here, right? You live here in Oklahoma or no? I thought somebody said they
Who?
were
Me? No, I'm in Florida.
in
Ugh.
Florida. Good. Well, I don't know.
Mm.
Is that
Uh,
worse or better? I don't know. But I
right
thought there
now
was,
it's worse than Oklahoma, but y'all are like running a close third in the race.
yeah,
It's between y'all and Texas and Florida.
yeah.
They're all pretty
It's a
bad.
mess. But we this is a sidebar, and then I got to go to. Like I said, I have loved this conversation. I want to thank you both for it. But I got on a couple hours ago to try to figure out. I'm supposed to go. I go live on Wednesday nights. So I was trying to figure out how, like, getting ready for tomorrow night, how to scoot that up so it says the church piece at the top of the screen instead of right in the middle. So I still have to figure it out. But I was playing on live, not really hoping to get engaged, and then someone asked a question. I saw a question in the comments, and it may have been JL. I don't know, but anyway, um, forget where I was going with that because I'm wiped out. But
You volunteered for
I did,
something with the
yeah.
school board.
It was all. I was not. I think you would appreciate it. But the superintendent of the state of Oklahoma, his name is Ryan Walters, and he's
I'm
the one
supposed
that,
to spit every time I hear his name.
yeah, he's the one that that made this mandate, and it's not because he's a Christian, or of course,
Mm.
right? It has nothing to do with his
Right.
passion for the advancement of the gospel. It's just this weird power grab. Maybe he wants to be something higher than he is now, but he's the one that made this mandate for the state of Oklahoma that last year it was every Bible is required to have, or every classroom is required to have a Bible in it. Then this year he upped it a little bit and said that he expects that every teacher is reading it to their class.
Oh, that's so gross.
It's so here's the fun part though. The only silver lining. It is as gross as it gets. The only good part of this is that every school system within 50 miles of where I live is completely ignoring it.
Okay.
So that I don't know about rural
Did,
areas.
did
Maybe
they did they not purchase Trump Bibles for that?
that I don't think that happened yet. I heard the same thing. Like they even
Yeah, I
said
did
there was
Yeah,
too.
a
I,
100 million or
I think it's in the works for them to do that.
I know, but I don't think it's. They're still trying for sure. So I don't mean to make it sound like it's going great. Like they're still pushing for this, and they probably won't let up. But at least for right now, my kids are in public schools. So are many other people that I've gotten to know in different public schools in the area that we live, and I've talked to enough teachers and principals uh, of the school systems that we're in, like asking this question: is this something that's happening? Do we have Bibles in the classrooms? And they were like, no, there's no Bibles in any classrooms in
I
Oklahoma.
think it would be I think it would be very educational, especially when you get a good atheist that knows all the contradictions and all the good
Hmm.
verses, like, you were pointing out there, Frankie, and start out with, either that verse with the donkey or the one about the bear coming down to eat all the little bad kids and
Hmm.
things like that. There's plenty. I mean, there's plenty of incest and other
Oh,
things that
let's
are
talk about
just,
Lot and his daughters, shall we?
Yeah.
all the wonderful things of the Bible that get overlooked, and you know, I'm not just the Old Testament, the New Testament too. It's pretty full of some raggedy parts that, people want to
Yeah.
overlook and brush aside because of Jesus. But the reality is that I was, in a place, I'm from North Carolina, which is, also a red state. But when I was going to school, they allowed them to come in and hand out the Gideon Bibles and, do all that. And they also allowed the Triple K people to come by and do the same thing. And so, we were,
Yeah, it's wild.
being taught the hatred that, there's no hate like Christian love. And it's a hard thing when people push back. The Christians say, "Oh, you're you're persecuting us because we're Christian." We're not. We're standing up for our own selves because you've persecuted us for thousands of years, and we're not going to take it no more. It's the modern world, and let's have a conversation that's realistic about it, because I can talk about your Bible just as good as you can, but like JL, he didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to hear
Yeah, and
my
we could unpack JL, like,
and I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying that they
no, I'm
do.
not even saying that you're knocking him. I'm saying that I am so familiar with these type of conversations. Like, I know I see how he went from one phase to the next, which maybe doesn't make sense, but like
I
at the
mean,
end, if they're not going to buy what you're selling, kind of tell them off, get angry, dust the boots off, dust off
I
your
mean,
boots and move on to the next town. Like, it's kind of based in some horrifically distorted Pauline theology. But
yeah, it's easy to call somebody a heretic when you have a set dogma and ideology,
yeah,
and
I bought a
um,
T-shirt. I bought a T-shirt that says "heretic" on it because I know the day's coming. I'm
Did
just wait.
you?
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm just waiting to hear it.
yeah, they'll call you a heretic too,
Yeah.
because it's just
Oh,
one
I'm
of,
I'm ready.
I mean,
I'm ready. I know that the
Christians love fighting among themselves,
yeah.
and so and like I said, they like to have somebody to, you know everybody likes to have somebody they can look down upon, whether it's the Catholics looking down on the Protestants or vice versa,
Yeah.
or atheists looking down on the Christians. We all do it, and nobody's above it. And I basically would like to measure mine and learn a little bit better how to communicate effectively,
I
so
was
that they can
curious
be.
about that. If you think I would be curious if Streak would feel like that is a worthwhile endeavor, spending a lot of time and effort trying to figure out how to communicate with what we all think of when we think of a Christian, which is insufferable, right? I think we could, like, I'm sorry to say, like, we're the worst. We're the worst.
Well,
Um,
So
being that
if
I
it
actually don't think that y'all are the worst is the other side of it. It's like what I was saying about going to Patmos and then going over to the,
yeah.
in Turkey
No, I
where,
just meant that. I just meant, I think somebody said
no,
once, like,
I understand what you were saying, but I'm just saying that I'm trying to do something for myself in this
yeah,
regard. So I'm doing this for selfish reasons.
so right,
That
if you're doing it for self growth, then that's awesome. And if if what we thought about it, Christians being, if they were like you, Ryan, then I would say absolutely, let's talk to them. But what we have learned, especially on TikTok or within our own families, um, what the
yeah.
Christian nationalism garbage is, then my answer is a definite hell no.
A definite hell no. Don't waste your time trying to figure out how to
Exactly.
talk to.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what I thought, because I know you have a lot of experience doing it. And while I think it's a noble endeavor for Earth, and Earth, you said that you've had good, like, ex, good experience, like positive experiences with Christians who.
I have, but like when my experience here with JL, to me, when he said the word brainwashed, I was like, I didn't laugh at him, to be respectful, but I was saying, damn, boy, look at yourself in the mirror here. You've been brainwashed by this ideology and dogma to believe one and only way, when there are alternatives to, the way things could have been, because none of us were there in 3 BC when it was all going on.
Well, I don't know if you
And
realized, Earth, when that other young man that came up, the
right.
first thing that he said was, "I've found the one true church."
I
Oh, I
thought
So,
he
did.
was. That's
I
why I
did hear
laughed.
it.
I thought he was referring to
A lot of
JL.
Well,
no,
a lot of young men are really going towards that Eastern Orthodox because it is a little bit more easy to be a misogynist man in that environment, and I
You
didn't
think
want to
it's
say that out loud.
you think it's worse in Eastern Orthodoxy than it is in, just out of curiosity, do you think that misogyny and probably all the other dreadful things that is at least Protestantism in the
Well,
States?
well, I think that when the Protestant Reformation happened, it was a good thing to try to get it, because what he was doing is saying, "Hey, people, read this shit for yourself."
It's the same
And
thing. It seems like
the
that's
Cath- the Catholics and the Eastern Orthodox both, they are the problem in my mind. Um, and the hardcore Christians that cannot be open to other paths, having to demonize them and saying, well, they're worshiping the devil, the Buddha, and all that crap. When people go off on that kind of tangent and disrespect somebody's spiritual experience, no matter what it was,
Mhm.
that's the real problem to me.
so do you want to know the religion that my son has fallen into, or not fallen into, but no, that way wrong choice of words, landed on?
Yeah.
Now remember, he was being raised in the church. I was raised in the church. Um,
Is he a
he is a
pagan?
Muslim.
And that one too, because my sister was Muslim for quite a while, and my nephew is still over in the Middle East because he was born there, and his father was Arab. And um, to me, I call them the big three, you know, Christians, Islam, and, Judaic traditions. They have really destroyed Earth, and I hold them responsible for capitalism and the way it is, and many other things, because of the way that their outlook is, which is, you're here to be the, subduer of nature, and it's for you, and blah blah blah, and it was sort of like back when Reagan was president. James Watt was the Secretary of Interior or whatever at the time, and he didn't think it was really necessary for us to have the EPA or anything because Jesus was coming soon and would fix it all.
Amen. Yeah.
And, you know,
It's
and
terrible eschatology that is another contributing factor to the mess that we're in.
it really
Um,
is.
yeah, and that's, but it is, there was one thing you said that goes back, like the bad eschatology or this like dooms, like, and apocalyptic type of mindset. But you probably know this already, like it's new, relatively new theology.
What's
This idea
what's
of the
what's relatively new?
the idea of the rapture and this
The rapture is new. Yeah, it only is in the 1800s forward, but the Armageddon end of the world stuff's been around forever. There's
yeah,
a
I
there's a
see.
cool thing that was found in Nineveh. It was scribbled on a damn tablet or whatever, and it was saying something along the lines, I can't quote it exactly, but it was basically, everybody wants to write a book, the end of the world is coming, and a couple of other things that would fit right along in modern times, but it was written back 4000 BC. And so it's been going on for since we've been writing, at least. And I think that patriarchy has a lot to do with it,
Hmm.
because um, um, maternal cultures tend not to be as doom and gloom and hellfire brimstone, even though I'm sure there are some. And
It works.
when
It
it
works. Scare
when
tactics work better on men, I
yeah,
think.
well, fear is always a way to,
It's a great
get
motivator. Yeah.
followers. It's a great motivator, yeah. And we can do better. I mean, this is, if we are going to get ourselves out of the mess that we're in, we're going to have to learn to talk to each other, whether you're Muslim, Jewish, Christian, or whatever. We're going to have to learn to, accept, hey, we're different. But at the same time, I used to always, the reason my name is Earth Citizen is because at one time, when I went to Greece, I formed a thing that was called the Citizens of Planet Earth Academy. And I did it at Plato's Academy in Athens with two Catholic people. And the idea was is that we were citizens of the planet. We were humans first. We were citizens of the planet, and then I'm an American. Then I'm a whatever Christian or whatever you want to call yourself.
Yeah.
Those things are later on down the line, but the very first thing is I'm a human. I'm a human, and we all deserve the respect that you need as a human. But there are psychopaths that have co-opted so many of these things that they've ruined it, and we need to take that in control and not allow it by either shame or something when they're younger. Shame used to be used by the native cultures a lot differently than we would think of the word shame. And there's a lot to be said for, being, that's one of the things we say about our culture. There is no shame anymore. And there should be about your actions. Maybe not about your beliefs, but at least your actions.
Yeah.
So, what do you think should be done when you have people like Greg Locke saying things about not just our community, but about children with autism? Have you heard what he said about that? Holy
Just
Oh yeah.
crap.
I mean, one of the funniest things I ever watched was the one where he says, "I know there's witches in this damn church right
Yeah,
now. I
yeah,
got your addresses," and
yeah.
he was just going on. He is a closet case, and I hate to say that, but he's the
He's got a lot
epitome.
of followers, though.
He's the
oh
epitome. He's the epitome of a self-hating closet case. And these men that do this sort of thing and treat women the way they do, treat other humans the way they do, they have a self-hatred that really just needs psychological therapy that we should have been giving them when they were children. A lot of them are lost causes because of it. I mean, I don't know that there's much help for some of these psychopaths at this point.
yeah, they're making a push too. I mean, they're the efforts
Well, they
to
rule the world. I mean, they
yeah
basically are in power right now, and they're not going to let loose of it because they are narcissist sociopaths who, once they have power, they're going to make sure they're staying there.
yeah
And they will also stay in the limelight. That's why they do all the outrageous things they do.
yeah
But and when you're asking what would I do,
Yeah, what
um,
do you think the answer is?
what I think the answer is I would want to go to the congregation and actually find out who wants to have some education. And let's step out of our little, blinders, like horses that, you put on a horse, and let's talk and say, hey, I'm your neighbor. Are you truly going to go against your own God's word and hate me with that kind of hate and think that you're getting into heaven because of it?
Their
And
answer is yes.
yeah, they will. And the problem is that is a true, narcissistic, sociopathic complex that really has to be dealt with at a very early age. And since most of them don't get it, it's only the children. I'll give you an example. I had the Jehovah Witnesses come to my house, and I used to love when they would come to my house, them or the Mormons, because I know their books and I'd read them and I'd been to their churches and all that good stuff. So when they came, there was like three older women, that were probably in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And there was this young acolyte, young woman that was, probably 20 at the most. And when I talked to them, because, I let them say their few little words, and I said, yeah, I've read all your books, and Can You Live Forever and all that crap. And I looked at the young woman and I talked to her. I didn't talk to the older people because I knew that maybe if she just heard one thing that I was saying that struck her, it would stay with her and she would think about it and possibly, get some good out of it, you know? And that was my hope. And I still think about this young girl. I mean, almost at least once a month, I think about her, hoping that maybe she heard something that I said and it made her rethink the kind of religion that she was going into. And, it's the children. We have to educate. We have to have some sort of educational process that we'll read the Bible, but we're going to read it like it's literature, just like it really is. And if you want to put it in the schools, read it like it's literature. That's the way I had it in school, and I thought it was a good way to teach it. You go and you read it without any preconceived thing, like it's a book, and get out of it what you get. But some people just have to have that strong arm, self-right. The whole thing about sin and being saved. I mean, personally, I don't need to be saved, in my opinion. And what Jesus was doing, he never said he was coming to save people. He was coming as the light of the world and the Prince of Peace, which is something totally different. Even though he admitted that he was coming with a sword and he was giving a sword to everybody. There's a lot to unpack. And so you got to sort of round it out with world history. Not all religions are the same, and they don't think the same, and they're just as valid. It's not. Christians don't like it when you say that. They don't like it when you say other religions are valid.
Yeah, I think
Well,
that's a
but the thing is, if they don't like that one statement, there's one verse in the Bible that stands against them believing that Christianity is the end all be all when it comes to religion. When it says that you shall have no gods, plural, before me, which
Implying that
means
there
there are
are
other
other gods.
gods. He's not the only
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. I mean, we could go off on the whole ancient astronaut theory with that one.
I've loved this. I'm sad that I have to go to bed. I got to be up pretty early
Don't
tomorrow
want to
morning.
keep you too much more, Ryan. We
Yeah,
really appreciate
I'm
it.
going to be. Yeah, thank you for this time. I've really enjoyed it. Like I said,
I'm glad I stuck around
I'll
and
come back
didn't.
tomorrow.
Alrighty. Yeah, I don't know what will happen tomorrow either, but I'll fix the thing. I'll put the church thing
What time?
up higher.
What time did you say?
I try to do as best I can Wednesdays at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
9 o'clock
Your
Eastern
time?
time. 9 o'clock Eastern.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
8 o'clock my time. But there are
Okay.
I can explain more of the project if you guys are interested. There are some people following it that are involved, but I don't think they're going to come to this. So I'll be back. We can talk about whatever if you're up for it.
All right. I
Thank you
definitely
both.
will try to return. It's been enjoyable talking with both of you.
Absolutely.
Really
Thank you
appreciate
both.
it. I friended both of you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, likewise.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, have
Get
a
some
good night.
rest.
See you.
Good night.
Good night. Oh, do I need to wait to end it? But do you need to leave
No.
before I end it,
No.
or I can just end it?
No, if you
No, you can
leave,
just
that's
end it.
better for your live.
Oh, good.
With yeah,
Got
just
it.
end it.